Alright trolls, get ready to clickety-clack in the comment section because I am doing a video that probably some of you will not like at all. And I don't even like having to do this video, to be really honest. I'm actually quite pissed off that I have to make a video about this, but sometimes reality is a really devastating thing and we have to acknowledge it. So here goes from the National Post yesterday. Hundreds rescued from slavery in Libya are coming to Canada, immigration minister says. First off, I hate slavery. I don't think it should exist. It's a morally wrong thing to do, and I disavow it. Second thing, I do think Canada should take in people who were treated that way. But here's the thing. How many are we going to take in, right? We're taking in migrants, slaves. How many? The estimates around the world are there's about 40 to 70 million slaves. And I'm just wondering how much our immigration minister, Ahmed Hussein, thinks we can bring in. I mean, Canadians are suffering at this point. We don't have money left for our veterans, the people who defended our country. We don't have money left for them. So how many is going to be enough? And what I don't like about this whole slavery thing is because in all the articles that I've read about this, in the National Post, there was a couple other articles. I will link all of them below. But we don't mention the source origin of slavery. So this is what I'm going to do this about. And that, yeah, you guys, some of you are going to go in there and, yeah, bash me in the comment section, which is fine. I have no problem with that. I've got a fairly thick skin now. So, and also I know I'm right because I'm going to read it to you from the actual source. But the problem with slavery is that, yes, it has origins in all sorts of bad things, like people wanting to make money and all sorts of stuff. But there is an ideology out there that is actively promoting slavery, and this is why slavery will always exist so long as this ideology is out there. And the ideology is Islam. Not the first time I make a video about this, but it is one of the first times I'm mentioning slavery. And I'm going to read passages from the Quran. I'm not even going to bother arguing with this Muslim said that, this Muslim didn't interpret it right, this one did do this fatwa is not right. You can hold all those comments because I'm going to read to you straight from the Quran. And anybody who wants to refute the Quran, you guys can go right ahead. So here goes. So, oh, hold on. See, this is why people say I should get a mic stand. And you guys are right. I really should have a mic stand. But here, I'm going to start with the one I had open here. So, this is Surah 24, verse 32. And it says, "Marry off the unmarried among you, and also the righteous among your male slaves and your female slaves." How is that not clear? It's saying marry off your female slaves, right? So amongst themselves, there are slaves allowed in the Islamic doctrine. And this is why you see ISIS taking slaves. Boko Haram took all those Christian slave girls. This is what happens when you have a doctrine that actually endorses the practice of slavery. But you know, you're going to say, well, that's just one Quranic verse. You're probably taking it out of context, and oh, you didn't read it in Arabic, because in Arabic it says like all people are wonderful, right? I'm getting this, aren't I? So anyways, I'm going to read you another Quranic verse because I know that you love my reading voice. Maybe I should take acting courses to do these readings. I'm going to read a lot of the Quran in the next few years for you guys. This one is from chapter 33, so Surah 33, verse 50. This is a very famous one. A lot of people have quoted this, but Prophet, surely we have made lawful for you your wives to whom you have granted their marriage gifts, and what your right hand owns from what God has given you. So the right hand captives, or what your right hand owns, is a sex slave. So when you hear in the Quran quote saying the captives of the right hand, or what your right hand possesses, it's always sex slaves. So yeah, it's in there. It's just disguised a little bit, so you don't really know. And I'm going to read you one last one. There's a couple more, but I just don't want to bore everybody with this, so I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. And probably more short than sweet, but anyways, here goes. This is from chapter 70, so Surah 70, verses 29 and 30. And here we go. Oh, I think I'm going to have to read that whole paragraph because really, honestly, that one, if I do read only that part, it's a bit weird and you may not get the whole picture. So here goes. So I'm going to start at verse 19. See, those acting lessons would pay off right now, wouldn't they? Surely the human was created anxious for gain. When misfortune touches him, he is complaining, but when good touches him, refusing to give, except for the ones who pray and who continue at their prayers, and in whose wealth there is an acknowledged portion due for the beggar and the outcast, and who affirm the day of judgment, and who are apprehensive of the punishment of their Lord. Surely no one feels secure against the punishment of their Lord, and who guard their private parts, except concerning their wives or what their right hands own. Surely they are not to be blamed. So again, when they say what their right hand own, that's talking about the sex slaves. So when Canada brings in slaves, ex-slaves, I should say, sorry, not slaves. That could be clipped out of context. When Canada brings in slaves. Okay, when Canada brings in ex-slaves, which I think is a good thing to do, we really should try to help people who are in slavery. Like, that's probably one of the worst human conditions you can be in. So I agree that we should take them in. But we can't do it while simultaneously accepting ISIS returning fighters. We can't do it at the same time that we are promoting Islam as a peaceful ideology. We can't do it while hiding the truth from Canadians. And I think, you know, some Muslims have a bit of a part to play in this. I mean, the fact that they're constantly avoiding talking about the Sharia and what the Sharia promotes is a problem. And a lot of people will say things like, well, Julie, that slavery thing, that was just intended for the time of Muhammad. That's not meant for now. And this is what I mean when I say the Muslims are playing a part in this, because instead of facing the actual doctrine and saying, you know what, it actually does say that in the text, and I actually just read from the Quran, so you should know that it says that by now if you didn't know before. But the Muslims who will say, no, that was back in the day, like people aren't doing that now. Well, that's false. They're lying to you, because it is happening today, and it is happening because the Islamic doctrine will endorse this. It says to Muslims, take slaves. Slaves are part of the spoils of war. So when you take over a country and you defeat the local population, you convert some of them and the rest of them will become slaves or be killed. That's how Muslims have taken over societies. Talk to the Hindus. Ask the Hindus what happened in the 8th century when Muslims pushed into their borders. The amount of female captives, slaves, is just insane, and it's recorded, it's documented in historical documents, right? So we have to face the fact that Islam endorses slavery, and as long as we allow Islam to advance in our society, we will get to a point where we will be the slaves. So why are we taking in slaves but not fighting the ideology that made them slaves in the first place? That's not protecting slaves. That's virtue signaling around the slavery idea. And just that as a closing note, to all of the people who keep yelling at the white folks for all of our, you know, slavery past and all that, like saying, oh, well, you're a descendant of a slave owner and all that, and somehow make it current people's problem for slavery that happened in the US 200 years ago. I really hope that you guys, especially you, the ones who criticize white people who ended slavery, I hope that you guys are standing up against this. You of all people, if you're consistent in your morality, you should be standing up against Islam and their doctrine of slavery. So there we go, guys. That's it for me today. I will see everybody in the next one.